Welcome everyone to the regular St. Peter School Board meeting of Monday, April 18th, 2022. We are in the governor's room of the St. Peter Community Center. It is 6:30-ish, and I will call this meeting to order. If we could rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is there a motion to consider and adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. If anyone would like to speak to an agenda item, please talk to Heather back there. Heather, do you have cards?
They are located at the very back of the room.
Excellent, thank you. We move on to approval of consent agenda items. It is our practice to not read the entire consent agenda, but to pull out items that we want to especially recognize or ask questions about.
I just noticed something in there that I was kind of excited about. Now I'm trying to find it. Oh, so we had received the $5,000 grant from the Prairie Lakes Regional Arts Council, and that was just kind of exciting. That I'm thankful for the people that seek those out and apply for those, because I know that's probably not easy, and that's a significant amount of money, and that's very exciting for Community Ed.
Excellent, thank you, Tracy.
I'd like to mention that we are having a retirement on August 15th of our grounds guru, Mr. Mark Bachman. So I'd just like to appreciate all his hard work over the past years to the school district, and we hope that his future endeavors are as successful as his stint with the St. Peter Public Schools.
And to piggyback on that a little bit, also Mr. Jeff, I don't know how long he's been with the school district, but it seems like quite a while. So that's kind of two big people in that department, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Jeff Dietrich, thank you so much for your service. Mark, thank you for being a longtime teacher and then taking over facilities and helping bring the new high school to existence and Community Spirit Park. And may you not have to build restroom facilities in your retirement. So.
And since we're doing that, also to Lori Witzel for all of her years of service.
Excellent.
Yes.
Thank you, Lori.
And for anybody we missed, it's obviously hard to get them
that's
all, right?
It is.
So,
With that, is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
oh, hold on,
Or
I wanna.
approve the consent
I did
agenda?
have one other question,
Okay.
I'm sorry. There was something in here with, was it the technology department with obsolete items? Can you explain to me again how that works and how those items are, I'll say disposed of, but disposed of?
They are, and I could ask our new retiree announcer to follow up on this. But once it's determined that they're no longer needed by the district, then they are sold. And usually those are done either through online postings or things like that.
And we have a policy, and that policy follows state law, which sort of dictates how that happens.
So does the community become aware then when those postings happen?
Can you let me know where they're posted, Mark?
We post them in the St. Peter Herald, our official newspaper.
Thank you.
That's where we'd have to watch for that. Okay,
Well, you could watch the board minutes first to see what's.
I've seen stuff go, and I just was trying to follow that through a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, there are specific laws about how it is done, and so we follow those.
As I would expect we would. I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Excellent, we have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Consent agenda is approved. Moving on to student spotlight, we have Zebulon Davis with us. For a very exciting reason, for somebody who works at the State Historical Society for their regular day job, I'm excited to have you here tonight.
Yeah, so thanks for having us. We have Zebulon Davis with us. Zebulon is a rock star 7th grader at SPMS, and he's here today, as Ben said, because he's a qualifier for the state level of History Day. So Zeb agreed to come and visit with us today and tell us a little bit about History Day and his project and kind of how it all goes. So, good to go? All right, so can you tell us a little bit about, pretend that none of us know, a little bit about History Day and kind of how it works at St. Peter Middle School?
So History Day, it's in like history class, and so they'll give you a thing saying, we're going to do History Day now, and so they'll have a theme. And so this year's theme was debate and diplomacy, which is basically just saying whether if countries, have good relations or not, and what are the debates around them. So you get lots of work time. You can choose different ways to present projects. You can do documentaries. You can do projects. You can also do like presentations and like videos and stuff like that.
And what did you choose to do in terms of your format?
I chose to do a like e-board. It's like those big cardboard boards, but it's online, and I used Google Slides.
Cool. And am I correct? You had a partner who couldn't join us today. Who's your partner?
Elliot Schmidt.
Very cool. He's on a fun vacation, it sounds like. So, and then what was your topic?
Topic was the Tiananmen Square Massacre.
What is that?
Well. It was a big series of protests in Tiananmen Square in China, and eventually leading to a massacre under like martial law, where China enforced the government to seek out the protesters and injure them and maybe kill them because of what they were protesting about, because they wanted a more democracy and stuff like that.
Cool. And how did you choose that? Was it just on a list, or you kind of knew something about it?
So I did know something about it, but also it's because of internet culture, and during the time, there is a lot of stuff about it. Because of this announcement of like social credit, there is like tons of stuff on the internet that was like all about social credit, and then eventually leading back to like the Tiananmen Square Massacre, like memes and videos and stuff like that, which also led to the decision of, hey, maybe I could do the Tiananmen Square Massacre.
Awesome. So you've submitted your project. It's off to the state level. Do you have any idea in terms of a timeline when you'll hear back?
I'll probably hear back in a week or a couple days.
Cool.
Pretty soon.
And then besides History Day, like what other things about school, or what else do you enjoy about school?
I like being with my friends, but I also like some of the projects in school. I really like a lot of like science and health related stuff. I find that pretty fun. I also like bands, so I like playing my euphonium, which is like a mini tuba, which is pretty cool.
Awesome. And I know you're only a 7th grader, so you probably haven't given this any thought, but if school were to end today and we were like going to kick you out and say, okay, go be an adult, what would you do?
I would.
That's fair if you don't want to.
You just suddenly kicked me out. I would not know what to do.
You graduated.
Yeah, I graduated.
Stuck on that.
I like health stuff, so if I were to have like a job, it would be like something like a medical career or something like that. I like immunology because it sounds pretty cool.
Nice. Okay, and then one last question. I didn't tell you I was going to ask this.
All right.
I'm also going to school right now, and I have these big projects, kind of like History Day, how it's a big project. And I am a massive procrastinator. What's your workflow like? Did you wait until the last minute, or did you have kind of some tips to keep it going so that it wasn't like, oh, I'll do it the end?
A tip is to get a friend to tell you what to do.
Nice.
You're doing it now.
So Elliot was was the ringleader, keeping it going?
Mr. Sharstrom.
Oh, Mr. Sharp. Is there anybody in the room here that also helped?
Kate Martin.
Good. Yeah, Kate was a huge support.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thanks. You guys have any questions for us?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
Zebulon. So obviously you learned more about the Tiananmen Square stuff, but what's a skill that you think you improved on while working on this project?
I think I've improved on a bit of my grammar because I learned that I did a lot of these things called sentence fragments, and Kate told me learning. I was like, these are sentence fragments. You're gonna need to change them, and so I've learned it now, and it's a new skill I have, which is very useful, making text easier to read.
Awesome. Good job.
Did you learn any research skills?
Yeah, definitely what sources to use and which ones not to use.
I don't have a question, but I just have to say that you are a very well-spoken seventh grader. If you would have been sitting up there without Mr. Graff, I would have, keep it up. You're doing a great job.
Do you think you'll do History Day again?
Probably not.
Also fair.
Yeah.
I appreciate that you tried it, and then when you said what you wanted to do for a career, it had nothing to do with history, which is good because there are more jobs. But the fact that you still saw it as a useful enterprise and got skills out of it is I think what History Day is all about. So thank you for participating.
Thank you. Good job.
Mr. Graff, can I take a good picture?
Yes.
All
I'm here,
right.
just Zeb.
Our history rock star. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Awesome. Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thanks.
job.
Zeb?
All right, we move on to action items for tonight. And this is something that isn't a lot of fun for the school board, but is something that we do every year, which is consider approval of non-renewal of probationary teachers' contracts. So Superintendent Grunstein.
Yeah, it's not one of our favorite items of the year. There are certain processes, though, that require us to do some of these non-renewals. The first is Hannah Burdan. She has been one of our kindergarten teachers this year. She's done an absolutely incredible job. Unfortunately, our student numbers aren't high enough to maintain as many sections of kindergarten. We added an extra one this year, thinking our numbers might be higher because of the number of families who kept their kindergartners home for another year. And next year, our numbers look to be heading to be back to what we consider normal level, and so we won't need the extra section. The other two are both teachers who have a Tier 1 license, and when a teacher has a Tier 1 license each year, they are non-renewed. We need to repost those, and should there not be a licensed applicant with a higher level license, they could have an opportunity based on their own situations. They may or may not be able to reapply for that position if someone with that is fully licensed didn't apply for that. So those are the three that are in there.
And Tier 1 teachers always, like you could be a Tier 1 teacher and get hired back, but every year you would go through that process of kind of reapplying.
Yeah, part of being a Tier 1 teacher is you have to be working towards full licensure. And if you're not taking classes or you're not making fast enough progress because you can only do it so many times, then you lose the opportunity to reapply until you finish your license.
And these are resolutions.
Yeah.
They are separate individual resolutions, correct?
You can do it both ways. I have done one resolution with 3 names. This one happens to be listed as 3 separate resolutions. And so because it is listed that way, you should probably do them separately.
Absolutely. I will, doing separately, should I read all three of them at once and then have one vote, or read one, vote, read, vote?
Read vote, read vote, read vote.
Excellent, I can do that. I will read the first resolution into the record. Whereas Hannah Burdan is a probationary teacher in Independent School District 508, be it resolved by the School Board of Independent School District 508 that pursuant to Minnesota Statutes 122A-40, subdivision 5, that the teaching contract of Hannah Burdan, a probationary teacher in Independent School District number 508, is hereby terminated at the close of the current 2021-2022 school year. Be it further resolved that written notice shall be sent to said teacher regarding non-renewal of her contract as provided by law, and that said notice shall be in substantially in the following form. And then it lists a letter of that non-renewal. So, with that, is there a motion to call the resolution?
I move to call the resolution.
Second.
Second, we have a motion and a second to call the resolution. We'll do so. Director Stewie?
Aye.
Treasurer Lopensgaard?
Aye.
Clerk Potts?
Aye.
Vice Chair Dixon?
Aye.
Director Cout?
Aye.
Director Martins?
Aye.
Aye. Resolution carries. The next resolution, whereas Cynthia Bruce is a Tier 1 teacher in Independent School District number 508, be it resolved by the School District of Independent School District number 508 that pursuant to the Minnesota Statutes 122A.40 subdivision 5, that the teaching contract of Cynthia Bruce, a Tier 1 teacher in Independent School District number 508, is hereby terminated at the close of the current 2021-22 school year. Be it further resolved that written notice shall be sent to said teacher regarding non-renewal of her contract as provided by law, and that said notice shall be in substantially the following form, and then a letter.
I move the resolution.
Second. We have a motion and a second. We'll go the other way this time. Director Martins?
Aye.
Director Cout?
Aye.
Vice Chair Dixon?
Aye.
Clerk Potts?
Aye.
Treasurer Lopensgaard?
Aye.
Director Stewie?
Aye.
Aye. Resolution carries. The third resolution will be read into the record. Whereas Ryan Timmerman is a Tier 1 teacher in Independent School District number 508, be it resolved by the School Board of Independent School District number 508 that pursuant to Minnesota Statutes 122A.40 subdivision 5, that the teaching contract of Ryan Timmerman, a Tier 1 teacher in Independent School District number 508, is hereby terminated at the close of the current 21-22 school year. Be it further resolved that written notice be sent to said teacher regarding non-renewal of his contract as provided by law, and that said notice shall be in substantially the following form, and then that letter. Is there a motion to move the resolution?
So moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. I'll call the resolution. Director Stewie?
Aye.
Treasurer Lopensgaard?
Aye.
Clerk Potts?
Aye.
Vice Chair Dixon?
Aye.
Director Cow?
Aye.
Director Martins?
Aye.
Aye. Resolution carries. Agenda item number 2, consider approval of bids for proposals for summer projects.
And I've asked Mr. Bachman to come up and summarize this. This has been a topic at the Business Committee, and it is before you now.
We had an LTFM project planned for this summer. The northwest parking lot of the middle school, otherwise known as the district office early childhood parking lot, is in disrepair. We've let it go a little bit over the last 2 years, knowing it was coming up to be replaced. Along with this project, we've had some water issues off the hillside for many years. So to hopefully correct those, we included that as a part of this project. We had budgeted $250,000 for the project. We did receive bids from 3 local companies, which all are, we would have been happy to work with any of them, but I recommend that we accept the bid from Nielsen Blacktop.
$178,500, so below our budgeted amount
Yeah.
for now.
Yeah. Excellent. Any questions?
What was our budgeted amount?
250.
Okay.
So what's the drainage going to consist of off the hillside?
What we're going to add a sidewalk along the west side of the building there, and before the sidewalk, we're going to put in some drainage tile with a curb. So the water coming, it happens when we get sudden thaws in the spring or if we get heavy rains in the summertime. So that will catch a lot of the water, and they're going to lower the parking lot a few inches. So we'll have more directional run from the west side of the building between the hill and the building where the water's been getting trapped.
Sidewalk, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Because kids walk, I mean, I've seen people walk back there.
It gets used more now
Yeah.
because the middle school students used to enter through those doors, but now they go around the building. So I think eventually Capitol Drive on the other side, the south side of the building, is due to be replaced. I think at that point it'd be good to connect the whole west side of the building there with the sidewalk.
Thank you. Any further questions?
I move we accept the bid from Nielsen Blacktop and Concrete Incorporated.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Further conversation? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Second reading of revisions to the policy manual. I was
Yes.
absent from this meeting, so.
How dare you? There are 4 policies before you for a second reading. One is the school board committees, which we have updated to reflect the new committees of the board, deletion of the old school board committees policy, policy 720 regarding vending machines, which is largely controlled by state statute. Policy 722, public data requests. We haven't had a formal policy before, and so this really lays out what our process and our procedures will be for data requests. And then the final one, 722F, provides a form for people to make a data request to the district. And if anyone from the committee has more to add about that.
We felt it was pretty straightforward.
I don't think we received any feedback from
I didn't hear anything.
board, so. Is there a motion to approve those revisions to the policy manual?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Call the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Agenda item number 4.
Yes, I've asked E.T. Prafke to join us for this, who oversees food service for the district. She and Mr. Regner and myself have spent much time discussing
Yeah.
the topic of food service.
Good evening. As you may recall, about 5 years ago, prior to the opening of the high school, we went through an extensive review process trying to determine what would be the best food service model for the district, whether it could be to continue self-operation or to go with a food service company. Throughout that process, we looked at the various pluses and minuses of both of those, and at the time, it was decided that based on the budget constraints of the district, the new high school opening, closing campus, et cetera, it was in our best interest to go with a food service company, which we did. So we've been under contract with Avians for the last 5 years. Because we're at that 5-year mark, we are required to go out for bids again for contracted services or decide to go self-operation. So throughout the last month or two, Mr. Gronseth, Mr. Regner, and I have been reviewing, we put out an RFP, so a request for proposals. We received 4 interested companies that came and met with us. When it got down to the final, we had 2 that were really interested in put in a proposal. So we reviewed those and scored those against a rubric and gave, they're through a point system. Based on that and our discussion, the conclusion that we came to, with a healthy state of our food service budget and the constraints that are on that food service budget, and that we can't spend it in other areas, we really decided that in order to provide some really good healthy meals and have some more flexibility, be able to use that money directly for our students and give them that variety and health and nutrition, and that we would recommend to this board that we go back to a self-operation model with the addition of a food service director and the food service staff. Mr. Gronseth, would you like to add anything that I maybe missed?
No, I think you really covered it. The only thing that I would add is that for the past 2 years, all lunches and breakfasts have been covered. And so we have found ourselves in a really good financial situation in food service. And because we've been under contract, we haven't been able to say, okay, let's go to a higher quality food, or let's add some more staff so that we can do more from scratch cooking. We've been really locked in on this is what we serve through our contract. And if we were self-operations in that model, we would have been able to kind of flex a little bit more. And I think that it'll be good. And if it doesn't work, we can
go
for
back.
RFP in the future.
So I think the consensus of our group is if there's a time to try it, it's now. And having that food service director to take the lead, where before we had, pieces of people that helped cover that position, but having someone really strong and knowledgeable in food service, we'd like to give that a try for our students. So we did bring this to the, I believe, HR committee.
Or was it business?
Was it business? I'm sorry.
So like bottom line dollar wise, I mean, and I am on the business committee, but wasn't at that meeting, and I apologize.
That's all right. Well, the amount that we would be spending, so we would be paying our staff more because we pay more than Aviance currently does. We're hopeful that many of the employees who are currently working in our kitchens would opt to apply for those positions. And we would be hiring a director. Now, the difference between those employees and the director is less than we're paying the company. We're paying for a lot of overhead when we have a contract with the company. So it should be, we should have more dollars to spend on food instead of on the contract.
Right now, that spend down of that food service budget has been really focused on equipment, so we're getting our kitchens up to date and so on. So that's where our focus has been, but you can only buy so many ovens.
Then you just don't need them anymore.
You just don't need
Dishwashers and steamers and
And so you're wanting to put that money back into a really high-quality meal that the kids can benefit from.
For the workers that are working through Aviance now, would apply to, and were you saying that our hourly wage would be more than what they're making now? So good news for those people, right? I
Right.
think.
And we have an existing food service contract because we still had employees who have been with us since before Aviance took over. So
Yep.
there's not a new contract to negotiate.
Right, so at the time of that contract with Aviance, any current school district employees in food service remained on that contract.
Okay.
And then as they left, any new hires were through Aviance.
And any employees who wish to stay with Aviance could work in another area school that works with Aviance.
And we certainly have appreciated, in particular, over the last 3 years, the service that Aviance has provided us. I think this is just an opportunity to take a different look at things.
The current contract with Aviance ends end of fiscal.
Correct.
So what's the hope for a food service director? A summer hire?
Yeah,
June
yep.
1
So as
start?
soon as the board
July
were,
1?
if the board were to approve this, we'd be posting it this week.
Okay. Okay.
We know that timeline, we gotta get on that.
Right.
so.
Yeah, it seems clear that we have an opportunity to invest in, individual nutrition at a higher level than we have in the past, which is That's the whole point.
And one of our goals in that review 5 years ago was farm to school and getting some of that going. This would also lend itself to that. We just have much more control, if you want to use that word.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, so I move to reject the food service bids and pursue self-operation model for our food service needs in the district.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I know it's a lot of work. I appreciate all that you're putting into it. I'll do. Action item number 5, consider approval of district strategic plan. Dr. Gronsack.
I wish it were Dr. Gross.
I am Mr. Cronley.
Gotta finish that dissertation. Thanks for rubbing
Just
that in.
rubbing it in all the time.
So painful. Well, we had a study session right before spring break and went in detail through the strategic direction, these strategic direction goals and the process that we had to get this far. There's a little over 250 people that participated, either from staff or parents or community members or focus groups, who gave us their input, their thoughts, their reflections, and their hopes and dreams for the future. And we, as an administrative team, spent 2 days together going through all of this data and pulling out the themes, and then through many, many discussions, I got this down to these goal areas. Now, these goal areas these are the 1,000-foot level, the 20,000-foot level of goals. So these aren't SMART goals that are measurable and have actions laid out before them. But we wanted to come to you as a school board to say, these are the goals that we are thinking are our direction for the next 5 years, before we get to working out the benchmarks and the actions and the measurable pieces that come below each of these areas. So if you approve this tonight, we would then create a scaffolding for the next 5 years, kind of laying out these goals. And we would be looking at our capacity as a district. When I say capacity, I mean the resources, the staff, the training, the readiness for each of these pieces, and figure out where in this 5-year plan each of these lies. And then developing the actionable steps, the who, what, when, how, and how much for each of these items that would come back to you in a fully developed plan. So this isn't meant to be the whole plan. This is this the right direction? Should we keep going this way? So the overarching theme of all of our goals is equity, inclusion, cultural responsiveness in all that we do. And that's because in every single group that we met with, there were elements of this, no matter what we spoke of. And so the high achievement for all is our academic area. Safe and welcoming environment has to do with social emotional learning and our cultural responsiveness and the reflection of the rich diversity of our school districts. And the effective and efficient systems is really about how we do things, the policy, the procedures, the systems that we have in place, and working to more fully develop those. So we have three goals in each of those areas. Usually when you do a strategic plan, there are 9 goals, but we feel that we can map this out over the next 5 years and take off chunks of this along the way. How's that for a summary? Seeing as how you had a longer discussion previously.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What did you refer, you called them themes, equity, inclusion, and cultural responsiveness. Then what did you refer to high achievement for all, safe and welcoming environment. What do you call those? Because that really hit home to me.
The 3 areas?
Yeah.
Well, I just see those as the 3 focuses of high achievement in a safe and welcoming environment with effective and efficient systems. Those I see as the 3 pieces of the house, really. But if you're referring to something specific that I said before, I can't remember.
It had such an impact, I can't remember.
I know, it's like, oh, I
But
don't remember.
it sounded really good.
Just remember that.
We should have like instant replay, like NFL, like, let's watch that again
I'll
now.
have to go back and watch the video.
And I particularly like the component of reviewing every year where we are and adjusting if we need to and marking how far we've come. That's an important piece.
Yeah, I appreciate the tiered approach of coming up with the overarching goals in that structure, but then having actionable items. So it's not just, well, we could put everything that we do into these things, but then using that to guide real continuous improvements.
So, forget it, I answered my own question, I got the dates on there, because this is the first time I remember doing, so did we have a couple years where we like, I suppose because of COVID, or like, okay, because I don't remember ever going through this, I don't think I have since I've been on the board.
The last one, it expired in 2020.
Oh,
Or
okay, that would make
2021.
sense.
Or 21? It was 20 or
And
21.
because we were all in lockdown, it was tough to get people together.
We transitioned at the board level,
And at the superintendent level.
the superintendent
Yeah.
level and the
Yep.
pandemic, so.
I know we were all involved with spitballing ideas for this. I know, and most, if not all of us in the room were a part of that. And I look back to those times and the themes and the phrases and the words that people were coming up to try to describe the areas that are important to them personally, and probably outline the areas that are important for a district. We're trying to do the work that we're trying to do to the best of our ability. I can't think of any outlying words or themes or phrases that aren't included in this. And in that process, we saw recurring themes. So I can appreciate the difficulty of taking all of that stuff and boiling it into some sort, or distilling it into some cohesive directions. And I think you've done a nice job with that here. So I'm in support.
I also think it's important that we note the fact that the community and the staff and parents and so on were all involved in this, and maybe not at the level we would like to see, but as people who are our stakeholders see this progress, we'll get more and more input from everyone that's involved.
So would you like a motion?
That'd be
Yes.
great.
Well, I will move that we accept the report from the administrative team and direct them to proceed with developing actionable steps to meet these goals.
Sounds good.
And I will second.
Or themes, if that's a better term.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Our last action item is to consider a resolution approving Adult Basic Education Consortium Agreement. Welcome, Tammy.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to come and share tonight. Before we talk about the agreement, I thought I might just give you a little update about Adult Basic Ed. I know we have some new school board members. So I just wanted to share that the whole purpose of Adult Basic Ed is to help adults attain the educational skills that they need to either transition to a post-secondary education option or to have the skills that lead them to a new or better employment opportunity. And so that's the whole reason why we do what we do with Adult Basic Ed. And we are fortunate to have this adult area learning cooperative, which consists of 10 school districts, and I'm just going to read them to you. The first one is Gibbon, Fairfax, Winthrop, LeSueur, Henderson, St. Peter, Cleveland, Tri-City United, Nicollet, Sibley East, Waseca, Janesville, Waldorf, Pemberton, Waterville, Elysian, Morristown, and we also serve the law enforcement centers of Nicollet County and LeSueur County. So this is a large consortium. Nate Warden is the coordinator of it, and he and his teaching staff do a great job of helping us accomplish those goals that we have. The classes are located here in the community center, and at the Adult Basic Ed classes, people can work towards attaining their high school diploma, getting their GED, learning English, improving basic skills such as literacy and math, and then also preparing for that post-secondary education. Along with helping adults, we also serve high school students who need to recover some credits so that they can graduate on time with their peers. We serve a variety of people from many different countries. This year, we are, in addition to the U.S., we have students from Samoa, Somalia, Ethiopia, Ghana, Guatemala, Mexico, El Salvador, and Thailand. And this year, we have 3 adults who will be getting their GED, and we also have 2 adults that went through the citizenship preparation course and were able to receive their citizenship. So we have commencement coming up. It'll be held on Thursday, June 23rd at 6 o'clock here in the Community Center in the Senior Center. And I would love to invite all of you. It's such a rewarding event to go to. One of the highlights of my job is that you see all the hard work that people go through, and their families are there cheering them on. It's just a really, really great ceremony. So if you can be part of that, I'd love to have you there. If I could have you look at the ABE agreement that we have. This is the same agreement that we've had in previous years. There are no changes. All services provided by the consortium continue, and our classes will continue to be held in the community center here. Does anyone have any questions about the agreement?
I have a question, and in full disclosure, I should probably know the answer to this, but I don't. But can you just explain to me, like you said, the high school students, and then, we have Ms. Sikora's world over there. So like, is that like an option? Like, if you're falling behind in high school, you can either choose to go through Adult Basic Ed or, okay.
Yes, and we do have some area high schools like Cleveland that will send their students here as well.
Got it.
So our students, the public school serves students up to age 21. And sometimes students run out of time before they achieve all of the credits, and that's when ABE becomes an option for them.
But also high school students can, you said. That's the part that I was a little like, oh, okay. So many options. Really.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And we need this
It's
is
a resolution. Is there a motion to move the resolution?
You want to read the resolution?
Yeah, I will.
If you had it, please.
I do, I
I do not see that resolution.
I think we just
think.
have
I don't
to
either.
Maybe we could just, I move to approve the Adult Basic Education Consortium Agreement.
You can resolve.
Resolve that we, may we resolve.
Yeah, well, I can't move it, but the resolution would be to
Into this agreement.
sign the Adult Basic Literacy Education Agreement.
I would so move.
I'll second that. Do you need a second on that?
Yeah.
Okay, then I'll do that.
Resolution. Yeah.
So we have a motion and a second to move the resolution. Director Stewey,
Aye.
Treasurer Loganskar,
Aye.
Clerk Potts,
Aye.
Vice Chair Dixon,
Aye.
Director Couch,
Aye.
Director Martins,
Aye.
Leonard, aye. Resolution carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I could have said something fancy with in their voice, but
Yeah, I wasn't pulling it off, so. We'll move on to information items. The first reading of revisions to the policy manual.
policy committee was busy.
You guys are cleaning house.
Yes.
We managed to get through everything that was left in the 100s and 200s, so this finishes off those two sections. Much of it is, has to do with the school district, so official things like our name and our number, and other pieces have to do with the school board and how the school board operates. We went through these as a committee. Many of them are very similar to our existing policies, and so with some slight word adjustments and renumbering, they just slide right in. Others, such as 002.24 and 002.33, were policies that we currently have that were recommended that we delete because they're covered in other areas. And what else did the committee talk about?
It largely revolved around just making the number changes and making a few language changes, and reducing any redundancies.
Yep.
I would say policy 209 had quite a bit of discussion. That is the code of ethics for the school board. And the existing policy 002.61 and the MSBA model policy 209 were significantly different. And I really leaned on the committee and said, this is really for discussion. And so you may want to spend some time looking at those two policies, making those comparisons, because I know that the committee had some good discussion around those.
And so our current policy on that is 2.61, right? Or-
Yeah, right,
Okay.
right. Policy 207, around public hearings. Oh, and that should say delete policy 2.7. Public hearings, we had some discussion around that as well compared to our current policy. And it is regarding public participation in meetings. And so we have typically said that public comments should be directed towards an agenda item. And this particular policy speaks to public hearing on any topic. And so we may want to revisit that, perhaps change some practices to allow for a designated time, whether it's before a meeting or during a meeting, that if people wanted to address a certain topic, they could. But I would recommend reviewing that and having some discussion around those two particular policies.
Are both of those approaches legal?
There.
And I know, well, I guess eventually we have to talk about this too, but if we do that, I just think like we need to have, so if there's anybody talking like about a specific teacher, that the
Right.
chair can just shut them down, and you know what I mean?
It would have to be,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
And I'm not opposed to doing that and hearing that. I think if somebody wants to, that's fine.
That's listed under number 5 on 207.
Okay.
And I think if you did take that approach, you can put some processes in place
Yeah.
that you.
It's not
need
without
to
guidelines or rules.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need to notify the board that you want to, like ahead of time. so if there was some process to do that, so that we could especially catch if somebody was coming to, well, I want to come and complain about Mr. Groff. Well, I can't because I'm a public official, but some other employee that we could redirect them in a more constructive direction.
I think that we've had really good discourse with the public in St. Peter, and most of our meetings look a lot like tonight, where there isn't a lot of public input. I think over the pandemic, we saw increased interest and had more participation. I think, from my perspective, I like having public input towards agenda items because I think that public perception of the way that school boards work and the way that school boards work are sometimes widely different. And I think I said this in a meeting during the pandemic, but speaking before the school board is a wildly unsatisfying experience because you don't really get any feedback, and it is not a conversation, and there is not usually direct action. And I think that there are lots of ways that people can interact with the school district through their teacher, through their building principal, through the superintendent. I know in the past, we've talked about doing this again, but we've had coffees where three members of the school board sign up and we sit at McDonald's, and if people have grievances or ideas or want to congratulate us for having a great school district, they can come and do that. I really like those opportunities. I think for me, and we can talk a lot about this next time too, but if anybody can speak about anything, the result of that is that if it's not on the agenda, we're not addressing it. We can't add stuff to the agenda during the meeting. In general, that's not good practice, and so that just might lead the public to have expectations that will be unfulfilled if they can come and say whatever.
I think we used to have it open, coming from someone who used to talk at the school board meetings, and then there was all of a sudden this rule that all of a sudden it was only to an agenda item. So I think there was a change a few years ago. So I would just be curious why the change was made, because it was, and then all of a sudden I couldn't, so.
Oh.
So then I ran for school board, so there you go. But, yeah, so I don't know.
I think we get confused sometimes. I mean, when you talk about a public hearing, that's a requirement in the law for certain things. Like if you're going to close a school building or something, you have to have a public hearing. But when you want to address the school board on an issue, that's more of, considering a request to speak to an item on the agenda. And I think in order to have an efficient meeting, you probably need to limit input from the public to the items on the agenda, because otherwise you're going to go all over the place and get sidetracked and so forth. When you have a public hearing, that's on a specific item. And so you request, but like you said, you have opportunities to talk to administrators, teachers, board members one-on-one. So there are a multitude of opportunities to provide input.
And,
But-
sorry, and in my, as a new school board member, in the training that I'm getting through School Board Association, this is our business meeting. So speaking to the agenda is the proper format. But when we were discussing this, the public hearings, they are required in certain situations, but we may decide as a school board to hold public hearings at our discretion on other issues, which would be then an interaction, which would be probably more beneficial to the public wanting to speak to issues that might not be on the agenda. So we've got options there.
But I think to have an efficient public hearing, you have to limit it to topics.
Yeah.
So we should expand this discussion to policy 206, which is public participation in school board. So perhaps everyone this is the first reading for these, so it takes some time, and go over 206, 207, and what was the other one?
206, 207, 209.
209.
And
And
look over all of them.
Yeah.
but especially
yeah,
focus
specifically
on-
those, yeah. All right.
And I will announce this again at the end of the meeting, but our policy committee meeting is Wednesday, April 27th, so.
It's my son's birthday.
Yes. Well, thank you. Our second information item, our 2021 graduation rates.
And this is a really quick item because we've already shared this news and we have done press releases on this and newspaper articles. But I thought it was worth celebrating one more time that the 2020-21 graduation rate actually increased when much of the state and the country decreased. So ours is up to 91.5%, which is really something to celebrate. And I really think that it speaks to all of the work that the staff and the principals, the admin team did during COVID to maintain contact with our families and make sure that they were engaged. And, you know, that was done in so many different ways. And then when students were deficient in credit, our counselors, such as Nana Sikora at the time, who's now with our admin team, was really reaching out to those students and saying, okay, you're going to make that, and here's how you're going to do it, and making a way forward for those students. And I know that towards the end of the year, it got a little dicey for some kids, but our staff was persistent, and our students were persistent, and got them through. Now, we would be naive if we thought that the effects of COVID were over for our students and for our graduation rate, but we will remain steadfast in our efforts to catch kids up who have fallen behind. Part of the reason Rock Bend has been so full is because students do have those needs, and we recognize that. And so we don't want to celebrate so much that we lose our focus on work that remains to be done. But at the same time, I want to give a nod to everyone who put in so much effort for our students, and our students for sticking to it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
And I would like to, before we hit the next item, you can come up, Mrs. Brafke. I would like to introduce you to someone who will have great involvement in our achievement and integration department in the future, and that is Ayan Musi, who has joined our team as the Education Equity Coordinator. She and I spent the day together, touring schools, meeting people. We went to Rotary together, and we look forward to working together more in the future. She officially starts in January. No, July. And but we are spending a few days together as the spring unrolls here for her to get to know the district and to share more information, such as
The Achievement and Integration Plan.
Nice.
Well done. Well done.
Thank you so much for taking a few days, even though technically you don't start for a little while. That's really meaningful for you to be able to meet everyone and hit the ground running. So we really appreciate it.
Yeah, so we're really excited about having Ion on board, that is for sure. Tonight, I'm here to give you just an update on our Achievement and Integration Plan. As you may recall, in 2019, our district, St. Peter Public School District, was identified as a racially isolated school district. And the definition that Department of Education gives for that is that the enrollment of protected class students district-wide is more than 20% compared to the number of protected class students in one of their adjoining districts. And so it's really our proximity to Mankato that allows us to qualify for these achievement and integration funds, which we refer to as A&I a lot. So there are currently 171 school districts in Minnesota participating with an A&I plan. The purpose, this is a 3-year plan, so this will be a 2022 to 2025 plan. The purpose of the plan is to pursue racial and economic integration, to increase student achievement, to create equitable education opportunities, and to reduce academic disparities based on students' diverse racial, ethnic, and economic backgrounds. So there are goals within our plan that we've identified, and they are all relate back to the purpose, those purposes that I listed. We are required to provide reports to the Department of Education at the end of each school year, and so we have been doing that. So this is a resubmission for another 3 years. These plans are aligned to the World's Best Workforce Plan, and they're developed based on stakeholder feedback that we receive through surveys and through our committee work. So with that, our annual funding for 3 years, so each year for 3 years, the district will be receiving about $267,000 each of those 3 years. The guidelines of the plan require that 80% of those funds need to be spent on direct student services. 20% can be spent on professional development. And so in the St. Peter Public School District budget for this funding, we're really focusing this money on our education coordinator, our student support liaisons, and math interventionists at the middle school level. So with that, that's just a little bit of an update. Mr. Gronseth, if I've forgotten anything, please feel free to jump in.
I did want to mention that this plan is amendable.
Yes.
And so if we make more progress in one area and,
Yes.
and want to make some other things, or we try something that isn't working, we can go to the state
Right.
and amend it. Or if Ian comes on board and says, oh, let's try something new,
Yeah.
she'll have the ability to make some adjustments in there. There's also some funding in here, as you mentioned, for staff development and for further developing the cultural center and the work that the cultural center will do with our students and families and staff.
Yeah, yep. That's a very good point. It is amendable, and so as Ion joins us and takes a look at the plan and how things are working in the district, we just would resubmit with those changes and ask for approval.
Is it amendable annually or at on the fly, any point?
Usually
Annually,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
So did you say we were a racially isolated school district?
We are recognized, yeah, and we still are on the MDE website. Yeah, we are identified as RI, which is racially isolated.
Can you just break that down a little bit for me, 'cause it's kind of late?
Yep, I'm just going to read it again because it is a little tricky. Enrollment of protected class students district-wide is more than 20% compared to the number of protected class students in one of the adjoining school districts. So we know when we first were identified, it was because of Mankato. Then we were identified ourselves for a year, and now we're back identified due to our relationship with Mankato. And we are one of 171 districts.
And how many are in the state? The school district, does anybody know off the top of their head?
200 and
300.
300 and-
A little
Okay.
bit.
340 something.
I think it's, yeah, probably down there.
So that would mean so looking at protected class students, there would need to be a 20% difference between us and a neighboring district. So if we were at 30% and a neighboring district was at 10%, that would be a 20% difference. So you can see that we go back and forth depending on not only our
Right.
own population, but the population of the district around us.
And so with that, we are required to have partnerships with Mankato Public Schools, et cetera, which we have a committee that works with that district as well.
So what's considered protected?
Mr. Gunther?
Students of color, students who receive special education services, and students who receive
Free and
reduced
reduced.
price lunch.
Who qualify for.
To me, this seems like a great program that provides more resources for strategic priorities that the district's already identified.
It does, and it really, this is how we were able to start with our student support liaisons. This was the funding source. So it's been essential for us to move forward and to serve all of our students and families.
I just wanted to clarify, because, saying that we were racially, I don't know, it just sounded so negative. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
When you first said that, and I wanted to.
Yeah, and I'm just, I know I've read it a few times,
I know.
and I've been trying to kind of pull that apart and what that might really mean.
Breaking it down a little bit helped me understand that better, so thank you.
So we have a 20% difference between us and Mankato, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah, that's how I understand it.
And then for a year, we had 20% more than the districts around us. And so then we were identified, and then we fell below that, and so we fell back into the category with Mankato.
It's just the districts that border us, right?
Yes.
And not to belabor this, but we're not 20% different from Mankato. Mankato has a 20% difference between it and a neighboring school district, and we neighbor Mankato, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, so
It's a Venn diagram.
theoretically.
So
Yeah.
St.
yeah.
Clair, I don't know, maybe
New
somebody
Ulm.
on the other side.
Yeah.
Okay. But it only goes one level.
But for us,
Yeah.
I'm not sure how many districts we share borders with. I don't know.
Cleveland, Nicollet,
Yeah.
Sibley.
Cleveland,
Sibley,
Nicholas,
five.
Sibley East.
This would be a fun little map to have on like an iPad where you push a district and then you kind of see and.
So it does, there are different layers to the achievement and integration. There's the district level, but there's also inter-district level. So even within a district, if you had multiple buildings, like Mankato has 2 high schools, if there was a significant difference between their high schools, one school within a district could be identified
Right.
as racially identifiable. And so there's different
Four
layers of it.
different ways of identifying.
Yeah.
Well, their elementary schools may be what qualify there.
They could.
I think it's mostly for the public that's watching, and correct me if I'm wrong, like this isn't a bad thing that any school district
No.
has done. It's really
No.
just a way for the state to be able to give money to the districts. And
Right.
it's their kind of method for determining who gets that money.
Right, and to be able to work together between districts.
Yeah.
To create programming, et cetera, to get kids together. We had kids from St. Peter and Mankato on an advisory council who would get together and discuss what's happening in their school districts, et cetera. So it's really that, trying to create partnerships and team
I'd say,
for the best
has
of
it
for
been
everyone.
9 or 10 years since this became a statewide program?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I just know that we were identified in 2019.
Yeah,
So
it
this
was
is this will be our 4th year.
Yeah.
So any other questions? Great questions, and if I can get some additional information, I'll make sure I ask Mr. Gronseth to pass that along to you, that helps explain that a little bit more.
This is great. We
Okay.
appreciate the
Sure, well, we're excited, and we're excited.
resources.
Next time there's a report, Ion will be up here providing fabulous information. All right, thank you so much.
We'll move on to reports, building principals.
Mr. Graff, the spotlight is on you this evening.
All right, thanks for having me again. I will be reporting on all buildings except South and the high school because Doreen and Annette are both out. So, All right, so we'll start with early childhood. Early childhood has been busy planning for spring events and fall programming. Coming up, they're going to be taking some field trips to the various parks in St. Peter and Fallenstein Park, or playground rather, in North Mankato, which is a fully inclusive play area. The vehicle fair is back after a 2-year hiatus.
We are so excited about the May.
Very
what's the
excited.
calendars, May 5th? Where's the church parking lot?
It is not where you buy vehicles. It's where you look at vehicles like fire trucks, school buses, and garbage trucks.
That didn't make the fundraiser list. We're not able to sell them.
And then always parents who are interested in signing up for preschool, call the EC office for more information. North Elementary, currently in the middle of MCA testing. 3rd and 4th grade students. 3rd grade finished up math tests the week before spring break, and 4th grade will be starting math tomorrow. MCA test will be done by the end of next week. Good work, Mr. Doherty. North again participated in the National Trex decking plastic recycling program. Students and staff recycled a whopping 500 pounds of plastic film this year. North finished as the 2nd highest collector of all elementaries in the state that participated.
Wow.
Good work. That's leadership. All 3rd grade students will be going to the Minnesota Science Museum this Thursday to get some hands-on experience with the things that they've learned throughout the year. At the middle school, we received some new lights in various hallways. It was really fun to see the kids walk in and just go, whoa, it's really bright in here. One student actually said, wow, we have lights in these hallways? Kind of made me sad. MCA testing continues over the next 4 weeks at the middle school. A reminder that the middle school, every single student takes at least 2 MCA tests, and some students, 5th grade and 8th grade, actually take 3. So it takes us quite a while to get through those. And then lastly, at the middle school, 6th graders, before break, had their financial literacy course culminate with a trip to BizTown in St. Paul. At BizTown, if you're unfamiliar with it, students actually run a little town. They all have jobs, they have check cards, they have checkbooks, they receive checks, they learn about bank accounts, marketing, and business management. And lastly, at our alternative programs, the final session of night school begins this week. Orientation meetings are Wednesday, and classes begin on Monday. We have 37 students currently registered for those courses. They are working hard to finalize plans for high school credit recovery this summer. High school students and families should look for registration information early May. Rock Bend ALC students had a visit from South Central College admission representatives right before spring break to assist students with finalizing post-secondary plans. And both classes from Rock Bend will participate in a forest ecology trip to 7 Mile Creek next week with an environmental education program through Project Gym. And then lastly here, high school students at Oshawa Learning Academy will host William Kent Kruger on Saturday, April 30th for a book discussion. Students recently completed Red Knife and are very excited to meet Mr. Kruger and talk with him about the book. Thanks to Mrs. Betty Gensel for arranging the visit.
Nice. Excellent. Thank you.
You bet.
My turn. Well, this is our first day back after spring break, and our band went to Italy over spring break, which was, it sounded like it was a fabulous trip, and much fun was had by all, except for a few illnesses that happened along the way, but I'm glad to hear everyone is doing well. I did receive a few messages over spring break like, this is the first spring break I've ever had in my professional career, and I like it. Which was, I'm glad it worked out for this year's calendar. The next 2 calendars don't have a full spring break in them, but there are some breaks along the way, and we'll have another opportunity in a couple of years to figure out the next calendar. I too wanted to recognize Mr. Bachman. He has been so very helpful as I've transitioned in, and with him he is taking a great deal of institutional knowledge Anything I want to know about any building, he knows it, and I'm thankful that he has agreed to be available in the future as a resource and a reference, and to come back and help us when we require to know what the heck is going on with a building, because his history with the district, both as a teacher and as facilities and all of the other roles that he has had over the years, will be missed. And I know he's hanging out here in town, so we know where to find him. I also just wanted to appreciate again the ability to spend a good portion of the day with Ion, and we had some really good discussions, and I'm excited about the work that we will endeavor into together with the admin team, and glad she was able to join the administrative team today for our meeting, get to know some faces and get to know the district better, and went to Rotary, got to meet a few community members and have some discussions with them as well. We're also excited to take the next steps on the strategic planning plans, and thank you for accepting those tonight. We already have some of the next steps worked out, and we are looking forward to really digging in and getting through all the details, and we'll be back to you with a completed action plan. And with that, I want to say we are already in the final weeks of the school year.
28 days left, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say there's less than 30, which is...
I'm not the one.
He was like, wow. I knew there were 28. I wasn't going to say it out loud. But, you know, this is also a really busy time. As Principal Kraft was saying, many students are in the middle of MCAs, and there's lots of students still filling out college applications and scholarship applications, and it is such a busy time because spring activities are going, and there's so many spring traditions that come with the end of the year, like field trips and prom and all these activities. And sometimes it can be easy to lose focus at the end of the school year. And I believe it is a district saying that we should all remember to hoe to the end of the row, make sure that everyone remains focused, make sure that everyone is doing well and engaged right up to the very end, to make sure that that final quarter of grades is just as important as the first quarter of grades, and making sure that we stay engaged even as the weather gets nicer and the activities get busier, and we all have a part in reminding each other to hoe to the end of the row. So that is all, Chair Leonard.
We had a spirited discussion on Saturday night about how many days left of school there were, because we were having dinner with my sister, who is a teacher in Maryland, and they go through June 24th. Whoa. So she was not very excited about our conversation, but the rest of us were. So.
When do they start?
They start before us. They have
So that's my dream
long.
calendar. Yeah. Spread it out.
I'm all about year-round school. If we want to have that discussion, let's do it.
Yeah.
Not tonight.
No. Nope. I'm not prepared for that discussion.
Around the table.
So yes, the St. Peter High School Band took a trip to Italy, and I just wanted to report to all of you in the community how proud I am of the students and the way that they represented not only the band and the St. Peter High School, but also the St. Peter community at large while abroad. It was a great experience for all of them. It was great. I'm just happy with it. Thank you to Dave Hauk, the band director, who started putting this together, I think, 2 years ago, maybe even longer. a lot of uncertainty with the COVID landscape the way it has been the last couple of years. But it all worked out, and successful trip, and I think it's a great experience for those people who were involved. So thank you, band members. Great job.
Thank you. Thanks for going with them.
Oh, yeah, someone had to do it. So.
Twist your arm.
Yeah.
Well, as most of you are aware, the legislature was on a break last week. They're coming back now for their final push, and we might actually see some movement on some things, and we'll try and keep you appraised of what's happening there.
They have many ideas.
Yes.
Yes, they do.
Some of them good.
Very few, but
In my not-too-distant life as an active classroom teacher, I have to remind myself on days like this, that this kind of weather at the end of a break, like of a week, is not the worst thing that can happen, because the kids don't want to be outside anyway, and it does help that transition just a little bit. I have to keep reminding myself that. That's all.
I'm going to talk a little bit about spring break too, because I know from looking at social media that a lot of people took a vacation, and a lot of people really, really like the spring break. And I think a lot of people think that we as a school board actually we approve the calendar, but I just want it on record that we don't make the calendar. And from the people, correct me if I'm wrong, but from the people in the community that went to that meeting, they had said they didn't like the spring break, which I personally thought was funny because they hadn't experienced it yet, but that was the decision that was made. So that was the calendar that was brought to us. So I'm tired of everybody giving me a bad time about me going on vacation and not having a spring break in the future, because that's just the way it was. So in 2 years, when we're looking for a community, remember that and show up and make your voice known.
You know, if there were a lot of people who came forward and said, you know what, we changed our mind, we want that, we could adjust.
With that little line at the bottom.
Yeah, I mean, we have some movement.
I
that
was
we
just,
could make.
I was surprised at the number of people who really did take advantage of it, I guess. So, I mean, we've been waiting 3 years to take our vacation. It just happened to work for
I
spring
think
break,
a lot
so,
of people have.
yeah.
June 23rd, that's not a bad opportunity.
No.
Yeah,
Keep going.
Yeah.
some of those people don't want to start early, don't want to end late, and
I
want
know.
2 weeks of Christmas. too.
Right.
Well, that's why that 12-month school year just
Yeah.
makes sense to me, because everybody gets their way, almost. What do you think?
I'm not going to comment on the calendar. I am going to comment on just the fact that over the next month, farmers will be getting into the field
That's right.
in the community, so not only watch for buses and children entering, but also for farm equipment, and stay safe.
Very good.
So,
Can't top that.
Well, thank you. Upcoming meetings of the school board policy committee, Wednesday, April 27th at 4 p.m. in the conference room at the middle school. Study session, Monday, May 2nd at 6:30 p.m. in the middle school media center. And education committee, Tuesday, May 10th at 1 p.m. in the conference room at the middle school. Business committee, Wednesday, May 11th at 4 p.m. in the conference room at the middle school. And our regular board meeting, Monday, May 16th, 6:30 p.m. In this room, the St. Peter Community Center's Governor's Room. With that, I would take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second, and I have a gavel, so we are adjourned. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
he gets a gavel.